You are Locked On Nuggets POSTCAST, powered by Mile High Sports, part of Locked On Sports Denver on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Well, not the show we wanted to do, but the show that we will end up doing here on this Sunday, May the 18th, as the Denver Nuggets season comes to a close as they lose to the Oklahoma City Thunder in blowout fashion. They were wiped out in this game. Your final score, 125-93, as Denver's season comes to an end on a bit of a sour note. It's one thing to lose a game, it's another thing to lose a game in the manner in which Denver did tonight. But plenty of big picture thoughts that I'll save for the end of the show. We'll try to keep it in a vacuum here for the first portion, then kind of get into some big picture off season, what went wrong, what needs to happen type of conversation. So I know you guys out there are probably feeling that way already. So go ahead and drop those comments. Let me know how you're feeling out there, Nuggets Nation. I am your host, Aniello Piro. You guys can follow me on social media at Media by AP. And today's episode of your Locked On Nuggets Postcast is brought to you by our friends over at Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money and use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year. More from our friends over at Monarch Money in just a little bit. But it looked pretty good after the first quarter. I'm not going to lie. I went and ordered some pizza for lunch today. I'm like, okay, one of those days where I can have pizza for lunch, have some leftover for dinner. Hopefully it was going to be a good night. And the first quarter was pretty good. Denver got out to a pretty fast start, outscored Oklahoma City 26-21. Should have been up more than that, though. And that's where you saw the ultimate formations of what would be a pretty complete game across the board from Oklahoma City start to take foundation there at the end of the first quarter. Denver puts up a fight in the second quarter, but then there with about 3 minutes left in the second quarter, Oklahoma City just mounts a lead that they would not let go of, in this game today, as they end up winning 125-93. Oklahoma City led by as many as 43 points in this game. Denver just non-competitive in the second half. It felt like you would know by the time we got to, the 7 or 8 minute mark of the third quarter if Denver was going to have a chance in this one. And Oklahoma City, with just their physical defense, Jokic was locked down all day by his standard in regards to how you could try to lock him down. Jamal Murray, not great. And, just Aaron Gordon banged up, and everything that's been wrong with the Denver Nuggets seemed to catch up to them in this game, that being the fatigue, that being the roster, the lack of an answer outside of Nikola. The list goes on and on and on. And look, it is a funeral show. Let's call it like we see it. It's a 125-93 loss for Denver in a game 7. But I think that's the optimistic takeaway here, is that they got to a game 7 against a team that, has been favored to win the NBA championship for going on 3 or 4 months now. And, especially after the Boston Celtics went down the way that they did against the New York Knicks, even entering into this series, the Oklahoma City Thunder were the runaway favorites to win the NBA Finals. So you tip your cap to them, man. It's no disrespect, no hard feelings, nothing like that. I know they were jawing on the court, back and forth. I have my opinions about SGA and the overall style of play that Oklahoma City plays like, but they were the better team, 100%. Deeper, faster, quicker, younger, hungrier. Even though at some points in this series, Denver appeared to be the hungry team. And again, I'll get to my critiques and my negativity and this and that in the second half of the show. I want to, just kind of get the nuts and bolts out of the way. But as I alluded to, the turning point in this game coming at the end of the second quarter.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
So Oklahoma City goes on to outscore Denver 39-20 in the second quarter. And, it kind of started with the non-Jokic minutes, but it really started at the end of the first quarter, even with Jokic still out there. And Oklahoma City was really able to take advantage of those non-Jokic minutes. You had a really big bounce-back game from J-Dub, which you expected after a bad game from him in Game 6. He was great today, a team-high plus 35 for the Thunder. He finishes with 24 points, 2 of 5 from 3, 7 assists, 5 rebounds, a steal. So a really nice, complete bounce-back game today for J-Dub. SGA does his thing despite being a little bit quiet there in the first half. He finishes with 35 points, a plus 32 in the box, plus minus, 3 of 4 from 3, right? Everything that you kind of come to expect from SGA. And Alex Caruso, I thought, was an absolute disruptor, and they made note of this. I believe it was Doris Burke on the broadcast. They brought him in. This is a very young, inexperienced Thunder team. Caruso is considered to be one of the best defenders in the NBA, a scrappy player, and he's also a guy that has plenty of experience playing alongside championship caliber players and teams. I mean, won a championship with the Lakers, has played alongside against some big name guys. Was out there in Chicago for a while with DeMar DeRozan. Like, this is a guy that just knows how to play high level basketball. And one thing that I've talked about time and time again, and I think I said it at least twice after losses just in this series. I probably said it like over a dozen times in some of the games that Denver lost in these playoffs. They are really one Caruso type of player away from winning this series. I truly believe that, and being a legitimate championship contender. So like I said, I'll save some of my big picture thoughts for the end of the show after the commercial break. But, as it stands today, Oklahoma City just boat raced them. I mean, out of half, Denver didn't have much juice, outscored in the third quarter. 37-26 was Denver. And they got wall to wall, in the fourth quarter there as well. 28-21, your final score there. And that's how you get to your 125-93 overall final score. So it was a rough game. Aaron Gordon early fighting through the hamstring injury. I mean, you can't have enough good things to say about Aaron Gordon. I mean, without Aaron Gordon, they don't even play in this series. Going back to the Clippers with the dunk, what he did with the game-winning shot or the big shot in Game 1 against the Thunder. It's a shame that he came up limping, and it's a shame that his hamstring is a problem. But I honestly don't know if a fully healthy Aaron Gordon makes an overall impact in this game. I mean, Oklahoma City wanted it more, and Denver, after fighting for a little bit there, rolled over and died in the second half. That's kind of the easiest way to say it. So Aaron Gordon today, 8 points, 11 rebounds. I mean, you really can't ask for much more from AG on that bum hamstring. Joker tonight, spitting distance of a triple-double, 37 minutes for the big fella. His final game of the year, he goes for 29 and 7. So, close to a triple-double once again for the big fella. Jamal needs some more out of him in this game. He's been battling a sickness, as we know. 13 points tonight for him. 35 minutes played, adds in 1 rebound and 2 assists, along with 3 steals. And Christian Brown was the one guy, despite being a team worst, at least amongst the starters, minus 28 in the box plus minus. I mean, he was ready to go from the jump, man, and he wanted to win this game. You could see that early on. He finished with 19 points tonight, along with 4 rebounds and 3 assists for Christian Brown. So, it is what it is. At one point, the bench I saw was like a minus 50 when you added it all up. I mean, they finished well below that. Russell Westbrook himself in his 22 minutes was a minus 34. So that's one heck of a way for the Russell Westbrook experience to end potentially for Denver, assuming that he's not back next season. We'll see how that shakes out. Minus 34 for Russ, 22 minutes, 6 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists. But boy, I mean, this is not completely on Russ, but he didn't do anything to really help him tonight. I mean, nothing really whatsoever. Peyton Watson was not great. His 20 minutes, minus 27 in the box plus minus. And Julian Strawther, despite being a little bit of a spark plug in that Game 6, unable to replicate that here in Game 7. He's a minus 10 in his 18 minutes, 6 points, 3 rebounds for Straw. And, the bench is a problem. They didn't have any, the starters were not as crisp as they have been, not as crisp as they needed to be. And Denver's bench, they lacked any firepower. Christian Brown, albeit a starter, was the only guy that seemed to bring something to this game. Not that you weren't expecting, but Christian Brown, the first half, played better than I thought he was going to. That was a really strong first half from Christian Brown. Got into some foul trouble there late. But it's they ran out of gas. The legs caught up to him. Injuries caught up to him, and the bench isn't good enough. It's all big picture things that caught up to Denver today. I don't think there was anything in the flow of the game that lost Denver this game. I mean, after the first quarter, once Oklahoma City established their rhythm and flow, I felt like this thing could get out of hand pretty quickly, and that it did. So let me hit my break, guys. When we come back, let's talk a little big picture. What is next for the Denver Nuggets? Did we see some players play their last game for the Denver Nuggets tonight? Where do they go from here? What's David Adelman's situation? And some big picture thoughts as the Denver Nuggets season comes to a close, losing in Game 7 to the Oklahoma City Thunder 125-93. We'll hit a quick break. We'll come back and do just that right here on your Locked On Nuggets postcast. Back in just a moment, folks. And let me tell you about our friends over at Monarch Money real quick, you guys, because ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget smarter and save more than ever. That's why I went and picked up my pizza today. I didn't get it delivered, save a few bucks. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing your money with your partner is also smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. Be sure to check out our friends over at Monarch Money and let them know that Locked On Nuggets sent you. Okay, well, come on back into your final Locked On Nuggets postcast of the season. But don't worry, folks. Really appreciate your support throughout the course of the year. I'm doing Locked On Broncos, Locked On Buffs, so plenty of content from yours truly. But in the Nuggets department, we're going to have to shelve that now for a while, at least until we get to next season. So really appreciate all of your support. And it is a 125-93 defeat for the Denver Nuggets in Game 7. Two bad losses in this series. This one, which it felt like that they lost as bad as they did because they knew it was Game 7. They knew there was nothing beyond this, even if they did lose. But Game 2 is brutal. And, you know, that's actually not why Denver lost the series. Obviously, in a literal sense, you know, the reason they're not playing anymore is because they lost today, right? But they had Games 4 and Games 5, man. I mean, they were in position to win one of, if not both of those basketball games, led by 8 going into the fourth quarter, 2 games in a row. Obviously, the same fortune in Game 6. They got the job done there at home. But, you know, that's what I'm going to look back in regards to missed opportunities in this series for Denver is they had two opportunities in 3 and 4 to really – in 4 and 5, that is, to go out there and go up 3-1 and try to put the pressure on the Oklahoma City Thunder. Instead, they lose both of those games, flip momentum in favor of Oklahoma City, who goes up 3-2. Denver rallies to win Game 6, which was not all that unexpected, and gets blown out now in Game 7. But look, man, I think the one sour thing, the one sour taste that's left in the mouths of Nuggets fans is who's still out there. You know, if you were able to get past Oklahoma City, I know that Minnesota's been a thorn in their side, but boy, oh boy, do you feel due for Minnesota. I mean, you look at the Eastern Conference, the Knicks and the Pacers, no disrespect. You think if Denver can figure out a way to get past Minnesota, and I would have picked Nuggets in 7 had it gone that far. So now you're talking about 21 games, had it gone 7 and they won, then going into another 7-game series. You know what's crazy is Denver played a total of 20 games in their championship season, 20 playoff games in their run to the NBA championship 2023. They played 14 alone in the first 2 rounds of the NBA playoffs this year. So to kind of put it all in perspective, the mileage that was on the legs for the Denver Nuggets. So, you know, that's the one kind of bitter thing that you're like, oh, you know, if we could have got past OKC, you would have felt like you had a real chance against Minnesota and whoever would have come out of the Eastern Conference. Like, it wasn't like there was the Boston Celtics of last year, point being that I'm trying to make. You know, getting past Oklahoma City would have in essence been the equivalent of that. But you know what, man? Tonight, like I said, I think everything that has plagued Denver throughout the course of this season, regular season and playoffs, really came to fruition in some capacity or another tonight. Injuries. Aaron Gordon banged up, hobbled, gave it his all. Good effort from him. Jamal Murray, not 100%, right? You can't really forecast injuries. It's part of the game. The things that you can forecast is mileage on your players. I mean, Nikola Jokic is exhausted, plays 37 minutes today. And not getting enough impact both from your starters and from your bench. And I kind of lump those two things together because that's roster construction. I mean, it is a very fair question to ask ourselves. Was that the last game we saw Michael Porter Jr. playing in a Denver Nuggets uniform? MPJ tonight, non-existent, 6 points, 23 minutes played, 0 of 4 from 3, 3 rebounds and assists. And I understand, much like Aaron Gordon and Jamal, he's also been banged up. But MPJ's inconsistencies have been a common theme with this Denver Nuggets team even before he got injured. So, you know, now you ask yourself, is Michael Porter Jr. at the money that he's making? Is that a good enough player to give you 25, 30-plus minutes a night on a game-out basis to try to contend and win an NBA championship? That's a question you got to ask yourself. How are you going to address this bench? Look, I understand that not having DeRon Holmes, their rookie, you know, hurt them this year because they had big plans for DeRon Holmes, but he's also a rookie. So next year when he is back and he is healthy, like, you expect him to make an impact, but how much of an impact? Right? It's going to take him time to find his game at the NBA level, let alone coming off a devastating injury. So, is Peyton Watson a good enough option? Is Julian Strawther a good enough option? Do you want to go run it back with Russell Westbrook? I'm actually not opposed to bringing back Russ, but not in the same capacity and the same function that he was this year. I think he played good, especially early in the year. I thought there were some good moments from Russell Westbrook. I mean, you think back to the Clipper series, it's a big shot late. I've always said the problem is not Russell Westbrook, it's the amount of Russell Westbrook. I mean, tonight he plays 22 minutes. You want to see Russ floating between 15 and 17 minutes played if you do opt to bring him back. You can't have Russell Westbrook be a closing option like he was so many times this season. You can't rely on Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook needs to be a cherry on top of your roster. So these are all questions. I mean, I think, Christian Brown, they're talking about he's going to get a $100 million contract this offseason. I think he deserves it. I mean, he's the one guy that I think kind of lived up to his end of the bargain, per se, in the starting five of someone not named Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray to a certain extent. But you kind of know what Jamal is in the regular season compared to the playoffs. But the two areas where you can really, really get better, that you need to get better, at least one dynamic in the starting rotation. Maybe that's Michael Porter Jr.'s spot. And you've got to fill out some depth on this roster. 2 or 3 spots on the bench, man. I mean, you got to be able to go 9-10 deep in the regular season sometimes. And so we'll see. How Josh Kroenke tries to attack this as it pertains to David Adelman. I thought he did a fine job. I don't think David Adelman won himself the Nuggets head coaching job by any stretch of the imagination. But, I mean, let's call a spade a spade. I mean, 3 games left in the regular season. You do that, win all 3, win a 7-game series, and then get to game 7 against the best team in the NBA. That means something. I just think that Denver, and this is no disrespect to David Adelman, I just think that the Nuggets need to go with a little bit more of a veteran-style coach, someone that has been there and done that. I'm not saying Doc Rivers. But, and look, I think you could run it back with David Adelman and be okay. But I don't think we're going to, like David Adelman will not be hired before Josh Kroenke hires a GM. Is it Bob Myers? Can they lure away a Brad Stevens from Boston with their dysfunction right now? There's all options are on the table right now for the Denver Nuggets. And I'm very curious to see how aggressive Josh Kroenke and the ownership group are to try to push their chips all the way in the center of the table and get another championship with Nikola Jokic. Because here's the thing. One championship with Nikola Jokic should be the expectation. And I understand that winning championships are hard. Like Dan Marino never won the NFL, right? Dan Marino wins 1 NFL Super Bowl. We're talking about him a lot differently in the GOAT category. Or so people tell me all the time. Anything short of a second championship with Nikola Jokic is, to a certain extent, a failure. With as good as Nikola is, as impactful as Nikola is, on top of his game in his prime. Look, Jamal getting hurt a few years ago, you chalked that one up. Last year, you chalked it up to running out of gas. What do you chalk it up to this season? Because the same problems that got you bounced against Minnesota last year ultimately were a lot of the same problems that got you bounced this year. So now the pressure is on from the ownership group to get this head coaching decision right, get this front office decision right, and get this roster figured out. Because they are still in championship form. Even with the roster as is, they're close. They are 1 or 2 players away from being a legitimate championship contender. So we'll let that marinate in the offseason. But for tonight, folks, it is a 125-93 disappointing showing from Denver, but not surprising. In Game 7, they lose to the Oklahoma City Thunder, and their season is now over. All right, that is going to do it for me, folks. Appreciate y'all hanging with me throughout the entire course of the season. Do me a favor, hit that like button, smash that subscribe button one more time on your way out the door this year. And you guys can also follow me on social media at Media by AP. Denver falls to the Thunder in 7. Interesting offseason ahead. We shall see what direction Kroenke and company decide to go. Good luck to OKC and everybody else, and enjoy the rest of the NBA playoffs, folks. Have a good one.